Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you thought we'd disappeared forever. But, we did that. We gave you one show and just left you hanging. But no, the Little Pod of Horrors is back. I am Boz, and Gordon's here somewhere. The reason there's been a bit of a delay is I've been trying to get him round to my way of thinking so that we could actually continue to record together.
Boz, can I come out, please?
Not until you say the words, the pre-approved script. You say it, I'll let you out.
I don't want to say it. No, don't make me.
Look, the trapdoor is padlocked. It's not coming undone until I hear those magic words.
No, I'm not doing it. Can't make me. I'm not a...
You said you would. That's the only reason we've clicked record is you said you would say it. Look, if you don't...
Fooled you.
If you don't say it, you will be dead by dawn. I swear.
Nope, I'm not saying it. Can't make me. You can do whatever you want. I like it down here.
Right.
Not doing it. Not saying it.
Okay, you've asked for this.
No! Nope. That's the best you've got. I've watched Hostel. Ha!
It's no good throwing your shoe at me. I'll just swallow your soul.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'll stay down here forever. Forget it. The Little Pod of Horrors can just die. I'm staying here forever.
Okay. What's it going to take?
I've
I've set up the recording gear and everything because I thought you were finally going to say it.
But people know that I don't. I've already made my thoughts perfectly clear on this, that I don't like it. And I don't think that you can make me see it.
Well, okay. How about we do this?
Okay.
Cross both your fingers and your legs and say it, and we both know it's not true. We'll edit this bit out, obviously, so we all know it's not actually true. But if you say those words and I can put it on the podcast, then we can continue with the show, and people actually have something to listen to rather than us arguing through a padlocked wooden trapdoor in the floor.
You promise?
Promise.
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 Pinky promise?
Pinky promise.
Cross your heart and hope to die?
Cross my heart, hope to die.
Stick a needle in your eye?
Yes.
You realise that if you're lying, I'm going to make you stand in front of a mirror and say Candyman 3 times?
It's worth the risk.
Okay. Here goes then. Oh. Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is the worst movie of all time. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Oh, I give up. I'm letting you out.
Oh, my eyes. Oh, it's so bright in here.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't... You think I'm dimming the lights for you? You got another thing coming.
You could have at least cleaned up.
We'll try not to bleed on the floor too much.
Yeah, well, give me a rug and I'm fine.
God.
Jeez.
It took that many months and he still couldn't say it.
I know. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm out. Hello, how you doing, boys?
I'm good, thank you. Apart from this
See?
cold. Sorry about the voice.
Oh, that's okay. So it is. My voice is actually particularly good, seeing as I've been screaming for 6 months to get out of that damn cellar. At least you could have done is give me somewhere to have a poop. I mean, I wouldn't go down there very much, so...
I dug a hole for you.
Yeah, but holes fill in very quickly.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll try harder next time.
Yeah, I know your tricks now. I'm not drinking any milk or anything you give me, that's for sure. Okay, hello everybody. Sorry for the delay, but we are back. And we are going to be back with a vengeance, hopefully.
Yes.
So we have... There's no point in going into why Boz put me in the bad cellar, the bad man he is. But I have to start my first bit of freedom with the following words for a very special lady. Boobies, 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 boobies. There we go. And she'll know who that's for.
Okay.
There you go.
Like we always said at the beginning, boobies are always welcome on this show.
Exactly. And boobies. What we're going to do today is just have a brief catch-up and go over some of the movies that we saw over the last few months. unfortunately, going through my Netflix queue, unless you're scared of My Little Pony or Wizards of Waverly Place, my selection is rather limited. So Boz will probably be able to talk more about a wider range of movies, but I do have a few to talk about. And then we are going to go into what is quite possibly the most preposterous list of top 10 horror movies that we have ever seen in our lives.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that in great detail, and probably do a lot of slagging off, as was promised at the very, very beginning, way back those many, many months ago.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to jump right into saying the most recent one that I watched was DVD release through the joys of Redbox, for all the people over here in the US that know what that is. And it was Cabin in the Woods. I'd been wanting to see this movie ever since I knew that Joss Whedon was doing it, and I had Bradley Whitford in it, and it was just, there was so much secrecy around it as to what it actually was. I tried to minimise the amount of exposure I had to it. I wasn't reading reviews, I wasn't reading any comments on it. I think I saw a brief teaser trailer many, many months ago on it, but I tried to stay away from the full-blown trailer and everything. So I knew very little.
You did bloody well to avoid all of that.
Yes,
really
I mean,
did.
I really tried, because I wanted to see it in the movies, but never got a chance to, and this is one I really wanted to watch. So when I got a free rental from the Red guys at Redbox, then I thought, this is the one I'm going to watch.
Good choice.
And overall, I liked it. I can't say I loved it,
no?
Because I think it dragged on a little bit at the end.
Oh, okay.
And that just kind of started to lose me a little bit. I loved the whole, I'm not going to go into huge spoiler territories, I loved the whole way it was set up, and the whole kind of two different sides of the story, and it was just amazingly well done.
Yeah.
That way. But when it got to the very end and everything started happening and it all started culminating to the big finale, it was interesting for the first few minutes, and then it just kept seeming to be more of the same stuff, kind of on and on and on, and it could have been easily cut down by like 15-20 minutes for me, and just kept it nicer and shorter and tight. But I mean, I think if you're a fan of the genre and stuff, you should definitely check it out, even if you are not impressed with Mr. Whedon himself and his style. But I thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
It was very well done. It had a lot of references to the genre, and played up to all the stereotypes that you need, which was done very well.
Yeah.
And that's about it, really.
I think if somebody who's never watched any horror films would just probably completely hate this movie.
Yeah.
You've got to be a lover of the genre to go to find any merit to that film at all, I think. And there's so many little nods in it, and it's just I was just giggling with glee all the way through it. I thought this is so knowing and so clever, and yeah, I've heard a few criticisms of it, but I thought, well, as a concept, it's a brilliant idea. You know, just the way it's all tied together, and I didn't find a stagnation in the pacing myself. But I don't know if that's we often talk about there's a difference between a cinema viewing and a home viewing as such.
Did you see this in the cinema? Did you see this in the cinema?
I did, yeah, when it came out, yeah. So, and I think it's so. Like, to take a film as an example, one film I loved at the cinema was Insidious. Now, if I'd watched that at home, I don't think it would have had anywhere near the same impact. I'm one of those sad guys, one ticket please. Went to the cinema to watch it on my own. And there are a couple of jump scares in that movie that legitimately got me. I mean, it's a bit sort of trite in places, but because I was completely absorbed and surrounded and sitting in the dark, it makes such a difference.
There definitely is a difference between watching a kind of horror at home compared to the cinema, just because the atmosphere around, and like you say, you're paying for the experience. So not even just that. I mean, I love the cinema experience, just the sound and the big screen and everything like that. And at home, there's always distractions with cars driving by, or the phone will ring, or anything that can just take you out of the movie. It's very difficult to try and experience that same level of I don't know, concentration when you're being at home. So I think there is a difference between watching something in the cinema and at home, and it could have been, I guess I was a little bit tired as well watching the end of it, and was like, come on, just finish so we can get to bed.
But the other thing is going on your own. I mean, it sounds really sad, but I don't really have anybody around here who likes or loves horror films and will go and see them with me. And it's just like, if it's a horror film, I'm there. I have to go and see it. And everyone that comes out is like, yes, a horror movie, awesome.
Yeah,
and
but I don't think that's sad. I mean, I personally, when I go to the movies, if I'm going with my wife or whatever, as soon as the movie starts, I'm like, shut up. Don't speak to me. I'm watching the trailers. I don't care if you want to see this movie. I'm watching the trailers. Shh. And I don't care if I've got someone with me or anything like that. I just love the cinema going experience, and I don't want people talking during the movie, or anything like that. I'm just like, I don't care who I'm with. I'm watching the movie.
See, I'm one of those really annoying people because it used to be just a thing we did. We'd go to the cinema every Friday night, me and my mates back home, and part of the fun of that was we'd always go to the late showings. And we would normally just banter through the movie, not loudly, just between each other, like little lean-over whispers about, and commenting on the film. And sometimes, you know, you just make a comment at the right moment where the other person was about to say the same thing, and it's hilarious, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm quite a sort of, I'm what I call a social cinema goer, which probably pisses anyone off who's sitting too close to me. And more recently I've had to start behaving myself, because I've been going to the cinema with people like you. Just like, as soon as a film comes on, they're locked in. I say something and they pretty much ignore me. But I mean, if it's an action flick or a comedy or something like that, I think it's part of the thing. But with horror, you really do just want to lock in. And I remember when Hostel came out, and I went to see Hostel on my own. It had such a profound effect on me at the time. Mm-hmm. There's like nobody to turn around and go, whoa, fuck me. Did they really just do that? You know?
Yeah, I watched that one on my own as well, because I didn't think I could possibly get anybody to go to the movies with me to actually watch that. And I know that was one of the movies that it really was the most extreme thing I think I saw and ever to that point.
Right.
I was like, wow, am I really watching this? And then it kind of runs through my head like, are there really people out there like that? Or anything. And I walked out feeling a bit uneasy.
Yeah.
I was getting a bit queasy at things, and it doesn't take a lot in real life to make me queasy, but on the screen I thought I can handle pretty much anything.
Yeah, I did.
But it was very uncomfortable to watch at times.
Yeah, when you think I went into that having seen pretty much the entirety of Fulci's back catalogue uncut, you know, and stuff like that. I honestly, I didn't think anything could shock me anymore. And it did. But I think, again, if I'd watched it at home on DVD on my own, it probably would have had less of an effect.
Yeah,
it was just because I was transfixed in that movie. And, you know, the massive tension relief that happens towards the end with the car, I won't spoiler it in case no one's seen it. But you need that. I think that's where the film is clever, because by that point you need a tension release.
Yes.
So you sort of go, fuck yeah, and giggle and laugh, and it just, you let all that nervous tension you had out because the movie lets you.
Yes.
That was very well placed, that was.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you can see that. I know there's been a lot said about Eli Roth and the way he does his movies since then, but he was a lover of the genre, and he knew where to put that.
Yeah, he did.
Just to give you that moment of relief to go, there we go.
Yeah.
Take a breath, and then let's go on again.
Yeah.
So that it was very well timed. But it did take, in the wrong place, that wouldn't have worked.
No, it wouldn't.
So it was perfect what it was.
Do you know, I've just noticed that's turned up on UK Netflix very recently. So
really?
I'm going to have to
I've
revisit
got the third one's on here, and I've still not finished watching it yet.
God, it's terrible.
It's awful. I mean, the second one I didn't mind as much. It didn't. I don't want to go into torture porn, but it didn't go too far, I thought, from the first one and the levels of extremity that it went to. But the third one just seems to have been dialed down to a PG-13 almost, or 15 if you want to go from the UK stance.
Yeah.
Or 12A. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that you've got some scantily clad women and cussing every 2 words, then, I mean, there's nothing on screen that I've seen, I've got 10 minutes to go, that I think is bad. That maybe I am. Maybe I've just seen too much to go, this doesn't shock me anymore.
I think it's probably just more it's set in America, and, you know, they're obviously not as hardened as our Eastern European friends.
Yes. And I guess, I don't know, I just didn't like the whole style, the way it was done, the way it's shot. The actors are all wooden and stiff, and it's just, it's not very good.
No.
I'm glad I didn't pay to actually to actually go see it or anything. I mean, I wasn't expecting, I don't know, Citizen Kane of horror movies, but I was at least expecting it to live up to the first two, and the levels of showing what people were actually capable of and what levels they will go to, especially the way that it's set up.
Yeah.
Is that people are spending money to actually see these people being killed. And I'd be very pissed off if you pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars and see someone having a cockroach or whatever it is rammed in, stuck down their throat.
Yeah. I was actually a little bit baffled as to how that would kill you, but I don't want to go into details there.
Yeah, maybe don't want to think about things like that. Hard enough time going to sleep without thinking of creepy crawlies running down my throat. But yes, A Cabin in the Woods, I would say it's a definite go watch.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, watch it. But if you don't like the horror genre, there'll be a lot of stuff that I think you'll miss from it. But you should hopefully like the kind of the comedy aspects of it.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to have seen a handful of
premise.
horror films to appreciate the film, I think.
Yeah.
So you might not get every reference, but
Yeah.
in fact, it might make you want to go out and see more, so you do get more of the references.
So that was the first one. That's the most recent one that I've watched. Going into another one we watched actually on Netflix itself, which was a surprising little one that I had on my Netflix queue for a long time and just never actually got around to watching it. But it's called The Caller. I don't know if you have heard of it or...
I've seen of it, I haven't seen it. So.
Okay. It's basically, I'll give the quick Netflix premise, saying this spooky thriller tracks the private nightmare of Mary Key, a divorcee who begins receiving disturbing telephone calls from a woman she doesn't know. After engaging the stranger initially, Mary tries to extricate herself with horrific results. It's a very, very good movie.
Oh, right.
Basically, this isn't really a spoiler because you'll learn it very early in the movie. But the woman she's talking to is actually from, like, I don't know, 30 years before. So it's a kind of time travel phone call thing.
Oh, cool.
So she's talking to a woman in the past, and the woman thinks that initially that she's doesn't realise she's talking to this woman in the future.
Yeah.
And it's about the choices that the main character makes, which then has an impact on her life, because she pisses off the old woman, and then the old woman does stuff in her time. So the main character's past,
which then
has an impact on it, and it's very, very well done. It's not like, have you seen True Crimes?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay, you know how that one you end up with like 3-4 different people, and it's just the same guy goes back in time.
Yeah.
But obviously, what he does has an impact on what he sees and everything like that. It's not quite like that.
Right.
I think it's much better done. But I think it's definitely one that's worth a watch. It's a recent one.
I wonder if the makers of Looper saw this film then, because there's a very similar concept in Looper.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know what date. I mean, this is released in 2011. I don't know when it was made.
Right.
Or anything like that. Or if these guys took it off of them. But, I mean, I just put it on randomly. And, I mean, it's only a small, short, hour and a half movie. But it is definitely worth a watch.
That's on my watch list.
I mean, there's nothing brutal or anything like that. I'm not saying that you're going to see guts being split out and anything like that. It's more the tension and everything like that gets you. But I enjoyed it, and I know my wife did as well.
I love a masterclass in tension, and it comes into that whole where the horror genre is such a wide description of, products. Really, I mean, it always makes me laugh when I look on my Love Film streaming list, and if I put the genre in as horror, it really pisses me off when I'm looking down the list of films and I get Buffy season 1, Buffy episode 2, Angel season 3, thinking they're classified as horror. Thinking, well, yeah, because they're based on horror tropes. So
yeah, it covers a huge range of different things. I mean, I know that when going way back to when Pod of Horrors first came out, and I had my first special guest, the lovely Admiral Marius from the Starbase.
Hi, folks.
Yep. It just seemed to be that he actually knew more horror movies than I think he first thought.
Yes.
I don't like the horror movie. And it's like, oh, I like that movie, and I like that movie, and I like that movie.
Yeah, because Rick is a famous movie wimp. He is.
Yeah.
Oh, no blood, no, I've done enough.
But the more
Rick, love you
you can
really.
have gone through things, it was like, yeah, I've watched actually. I think he maybe surprised himself. And apologies if I'm putting words into your mouth. But I think it seemed to surprise himself that he'd actually seen as many or actually liked as many horror movies. Some things you just wouldn't think about. Going back, you mentioned Insidious. I didn't like that.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I couldn't. I knew I'd seen it, and then I just saw the DVD cover with a little creepy boy.
Yeah.
And yeah,
which is totally misleading because it's actually not really anything to do with the little boy.
No, it's just the way they market it with the evil kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the premise was good and stuff, but I think again it was one of those ones that was way too long.
It was too long. I agree. Yeah.
It should have been cut down 90 minutes, even less than 90 minutes, an 80-minute or something like that.
But it got a lot of stick for being unoriginal. Now, when I watched it, the things I loved about it were there were very obvious nods to existing films and stereotypes, which was people go, oh, it's just ripping this off, it's just ripping that off. Well, where does the difference come between ripping something off and making an homage to? Now, I watched that film as an homage to the horror genre. It had the uncomfortable, screamy violin, music, sort of out of the old 70s Italian type films. It had, it had the woman from The Entity as the character's mother. And if that wasn't a brilliant nod, I don't know what is. And it had that kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of Ghostbusters-y thing going on as well, mixed with a little bit of Poltergeist. Yeah, it's not massively original. There are a couple of genuine scares in there that got me. And it was a good, neat little tie-up story with a couple of giggles along the way. And it's a 3.5-star movie, 4-star movie, I thought, for me. That's my view.
Yeah, I'd maybe give it a 3 or something like that. But, it's very difficult to be original now.
Yeah, it is.
So, I don't have any problem with someone rehashing the same thing over and over again, providing there's something different in it. And there's their own particular take in it, or you do something different. And Insidious did. I'll give it that. It did put its own spin.
Well, I'm going to take your comment there and run with it for one of the films I've seen recently. And anybody who isn't subscribed to the Little Pod of Horrors on Twitter or Facebook, if you do that, it will put you in touch with our Audio Boo account. What I've been doing while Gordon's been locked in the cupboard, under the floor, as I've been just doing little Audio Boo reviews of films I've been seeing. So if you've listened to those, this will be retreading ground. But a film came out last week, an Irish-made film, starring a well-known British comedian called Ross Noble. This film is called Stitches. Stitches the Clown. So I'm thinking, well, I've never been a fan of clown movies. I'm not one of these people who's scared of clowns. I just don't find them a particularly interesting concept. I know there's a whole world of creepy about the face makeup and everything else, but it never really did much for me. So I agreed to go. Well, I booked to go and see this film because it had a live satellite Q&A with Ross Noble and the makers of the film afterwards.
Okay.
I thought, well, that'd be interesting, get an insight into it.
A satellite? What do you mean by satellite?
What they do in the cinema is they do a live link-up, basically.
All right, okay.
So
everybody gets to watch the movie at the same time, and then after it, everyone's got a link into the same...
Yeah, basically. The movie's being screened in London or whatever with a panel. Yeah. And then once the movie finishes there, they all jump up on stage and answer questions. And then they put that feed to cinemas all over the country. It's a good idea.
That's awesome, yeah.
So I went to see this movie. So Stitches the Clown, your opening scene is him having his way with a not particularly attractive lady in a scummy caravan, and then zipping up his fly and running off to a kid's party and cussing all the way. And he's a very low rent clown. He reminds me a lot of is it Captain Spaulding from House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects? That sort of scrungy look. He's very much like that. So he goes to this party and he's shit, and the kids are taking the piss out of him and heckling his act and everything else. And upshot of it is, one of them ties his shoelaces. He turns around, falls over, and impales himself on something sharp and nasty. Then 6 years later, all these kids are at school together. Pubescent teenagers messing around, whatever. They decide this kid's mum goes on holiday. He's a bit traumatised ever since this happened. Has weird little, keeps seeing things all over the place that remind him of clowns, and has a couple of really weird sort of imaginary, well, not flashbacks, they're sort of flashes of imagination, which actually was one of the only sort of shocking parts, I suppose, or gruesome bits that make you wince a little bit. That's probably the only point that happened in the whole movie, was one of these imaginary scenes. Anyway, he decides to have a party, and then obviously Clown turns up at party, starts killing off kids who got him killed. There's your plot. It's dreadful.
Really?
Absolutely dreadful. It's supposed to be very tongue-in-cheek, Ross Noble being funny as a bad guy. But the only times you chortle is just when he does his Geordie accent, oh, for fuck's sake. And he says that a few times. There's one imaginative kill scene involving an umbrella, which I did like from an effects point of view. And did make me sort of, that's all it got out of me. And the supposed humour and everything, it was like a bad knockoff version of The In-Betweeners. And not funny. So I came out thinking, oh well. And then the film finishes, so I thought, well, at least I get me satellite link up, because Ross Noble, ad-lib, in person, is a funny man, and I will listen to him, So we're sitting there, the screen comes up, we wait for the credits to roll. One of the cinema staff comes in and says, just to warn you, ladies and gentlemen, this is 8:30 now. The live satellite feed will start about 9:05, so it's actually about 35 minutes until it starts. So, you can go out, get a drink, come back, whatever, but there'll be nothing on this screen until then.
Okay.
I'm sitting there, there's about 10 of us in the cinema.
Wow, a big screen.
Yeah, and it came down to, the film was terrible. Am I really going to sit here for 35 minutes to wait and see them justifying themselves? I'm thinking, actually no, if I sit here, it is just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Even though I've paid extra for the privilege, it's embarrassing. I went home and did a very shitty audio boo, much along these lines, about how disappointed I was, and ranting at View Cinemas. If you do a live link-up across the country, would it not make sense that every single screening in every single town that you were doing that start at the same time?
You would have thought that's the whole premise behind it.
Exactly. And so what they did at one point...
everyone's experiencing it at the same time.
Yeah. And they had this, title card up on the screen. They clearly had the link working, and you could hear where they were at in the movie in London. And for a little while, they put it on the screen. So I thought, well, that's not so bad. I'll re-watch up to the point it ends and everything else.
Yeah.
Of course they're not allowed to do that. So they showed about 5 minutes of where they were at, then put the title card back up. So we could listen to the last 20, 30 minutes of the movie. No.
Of a movie you didn't like,
Of a movie that had nothing, no redeeming features left. So
and let me guess, they charged you a premium for this, I would imagine.
They did. And that's the bit that hurt, and that's why I'm very pissed off with View Cinemas. It's such an idiotic thing to do. Why did you not start all the screenings at the same time? You cannot expect people to sit around that long waiting for an interview.
Yeah, I mean, that's way too long. If it was like 5 or 10 minutes, you could say, okay, bathroom break, grab a drink. Not a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, waiting half an hour, 35 minutes for a movie that sucked.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, if it was Bruce Campbell, I'd have stuck around. But it wasn't. It was Ross Noble. Get my drift.
There's a big difference as to who you're waiting on.
Exactly. Now, on the flip side, I suppose we should do one cinema view and one sort of home rental view, as you call it, I suppose.
Yeah, you'll be more of the cinema view man.
I have, yeah. I don't want to blow them all in the first show, though.
No, that's fine.
A film I did watch, I think it was on my Love Film streaming. I've signed up for all these streaming things. It's the best way to watch horror movies.
Yeah.
Because they have quite a lot of ones you might not otherwise watch. I actually started to write a little... I was going to do a post on Facebook about this. Mm-hmm. The film is called The Tortured. I don't know if you've seen it.
The Tortured?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Now, I kind of watched it because I knew at some point we were going to cover the torture porn concept, and I thought, well, the film's called The Tortured. Maybe it'll fall in with that, and I suppose parts of it might. But I was expecting a very Hostel-esque, gratuitous film, that sort of exists for the reason of gratuitous gore. I was actually really pleasantly surprised by this film.
Okay.
And it's actually... It tugs at the heartstrings a lot.
Really?
I figured I'd need to be in the right mood to watch it, so I sort of picked my moment carefully. Yeah. Scenes of torture are always hard going, so you've got to be in a more elevated state of mind when you view it. So it doesn't get you down, I suppose. With my notes here, I put it was a good job too, because there is a double meaning to the film's title.
Okay.
Story involves a couple whose son is abducted and very sadly murdered. Stricken by grief and devastatingly let down by the justice system, they begin to hatch a plan to see that justice is served. The film's title, I'd argue, points more towards the mental trauma of the parents than the obvious scenes that are going to be on the poster and the pictures and everything else. Right. The poster really belittles the film's content, which is often the case, I find, with horror movies. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read what I've written here, because I was concentrating at the time. So, okay. Torture is never easy to watch on the screen, thus my hatred of the term torture porn. It implies that viewers somehow get off on seeing others suffer. It's actually more a fascination of how, using great acting and special effects, one can be fooled into believing what on screen is real. In this film's case, it's not overdone in my opinion, allowing narrative and character turmoil to retain centre stage. Now, they hatch a plan to get this guy. He's being transported from one place to another. They get him, they take him to a remote farmhouse and start to administer justice as they see it. And yeah, at that point there are some uncomfortable things, but it's not gratuitously done at all. And the film always centres on what the couple are going through and what they've been through. And it had me near to tears several times, this film. And, you know, it's as usual with a horror film, I can't say any more beyond this point, just to say there is, you know, there's some flips and flops and twists and turns or whatever, and at the end of it, you're just like, holy shit. Yeah, it's not a feel-good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but for something that just appeared on the list and had no hype around it or anything else, the acting of the tortured parents, absolutely superb. I mean, you believe it entirely. There's nothing that takes you out of the movie, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I thought it was a really nicely done little movie. So.
Well, that's good then. Yeah. I just looked. We don't have it over here on Netflix, so I'll need to keep an eye out for it. Somewhere else.
I mean, the case is somebody upside down in a gas mask with blood dripping down their head, and it's just like it's done for sensationalist purposes to get people to watch the movie, and it is a shame, because if you'd done a sort of a title card or a poster that matches the actual tone of the movie, people wouldn't go and see it.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing, because I just looked it up on, let's say I couldn't find it on Netflix, so I looked it up on IMDb, and that's a completely different picture that you get on this. All you see is you see the couple, and you can see some guy looks as though he's lying on something, but he's obviously gagged and bound to a table or whatever.
Ah, right, okay.
With just these, the girl and the guy, kind of looking at him, so it's not as if you don't know if they're doing the torture or someone's tortured them, and you don't know. It's kind of very vague, but it doesn't sound anything like what you've done.
That is a much better. Yeah, maybe it's just Netflix then.
It might be. So it's only got 5.4 rating on IMDb, but we'll come back to that later.
That's harsh. That is harsh. No, that poster is much better. If that's the official poster, then yeah.
It does look like an official poster, because you can see all the credits and stuff down the bottom.
Yeah.
And that you usually see, and the second T in tortured.
Yeah.
Looks as though it's just blood dripping down or running right down the poster.
No, that is much better, because what that poster does is it shows you the 3 tortured parties. Oh, I enjoyed it.
Have to look out for that one.
It's definitely worth a look, but make sure you're in, like I say, you're in positive spirits before you watch it.
Yes.
So when it brings you down, it doesn't bring you down too far. Yeah. Like you would for Martyrs. It's no Martyrs, but it's still not easy going.
So I think I've only got one. I watched one really crappy movie, Piranha, which is
the original?
Awful. No, the remake.
Oh, that's one of my favourite films ever.
What, the remake?
Yeah. Piranha 3D?
I didn't see it in 3D.
Oh, you missed out, sir.
So, that may have... No, I don't think that would have made it any better, actually.
We're talking boobies, and we're talking Kelly Brook. I mean, come on.
That is very true. There is a lot of that, and that would have been fun to see in 3D, I guess. It was a movie that should never have been released not in 3D.
Really?
I would think that you should only have to watch it in 3D, because it doesn't really stand up. The effects just look... it's blatant what it is that's supposed to be in 3D. It's supposed to be one of those movies where I think things jump out at you.
Of course.
and everything, so it is a proper 3D movie, so you can have that proper fun with it. But and then just watching a movie like that, then watching it on 2D, it's like, yeah, it's okay.
Well, you didn't think it had merit beyond that?
I didn't really find anything in it.
This might be our first Evil Dead 2 style smackdown. Seriously, because that film knew exactly what it wanted to do. The creators were spot on. They took an awful schlocky B movie and remade an awful schlocky B movie with all the same ideas, but in your face with modern techniques. Some of the gore was brilliant. The gore was brilliantly done.
The gore was, yes,
really tongue-in-cheek, really,
yes,
gratuitous and leering and over the top, and it was everything I had hoped it would be walking in. Because if they'd have watered it down a bit, like I don't know if you've seen, there was another film came out I think it was last year, called Shark Night 3D, and
I haven't watched that yet. No,
that was a piece of crap because they had an okay concept. Now, if they'd done that with the same sensibilities they did Piranha 3D with, that would have been a good film. But no, they went for like a fucking PG-13 rating. So, okay, you've got, nubile young women running around in swimsuits, but you don't go any further than that. So there's no payoff there for the booby fans. There's no real gore. There's no real scares. Everything was dialed down. That was everything Piranha could have been, but wasn't, because they did it no holds barred.
I think I might have to go back down and relive my cellar fears.
Tell you what, do an experiment then. Go, find Shark Night 3D, right? Watch that, then watch Piranha again.
Oh, do I have to watch it again?
Yeah, watch it again.
Really?
You get to see Kelly Brook again.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let me see,
I'm actually worried now. I'm coming across as some kind of pervert. I'm going to shut up.
There is Shark Night, but it's not 3D, but I'm assuming that's just the same thing.
Yeah.
It's in my instant queue, apparently, so...
The 3D was virtually inconsequential.
Okay, so it's just one of those movies that was in 3D for the sake of it.
Yeah, it was, really.
Rather than having a shark jump out at you.
People into the cinema, because otherwise they wouldn't have bothered.
I'll watch Shark Night, but I can't promise you I'll rewatch Piranha.
Well, at least you'll have something to compare it to.
Yes, I can, and then I will be able to give you an opinion that one is better than the other.
You've got to admit that getting the hair tangled in the propeller of a speedboat and then
that
ripping the
awesome.
face off was brilliant.
That was awesome.
I laughed out loud at that bit.
That's what they're expecting you to do.
Yeah.
I've only seen one other recent movie, and it's not exactly that recent. It's from, I don't know, a couple of years ago. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
I haven't even bothered yet.
I only watched it because it had Guillermo del Toro involved in it. I think he was the co-writer. Yeah, he co-wrote the movie.
Oh, right.
So I knew that it wasn't quite his style. He didn't have any real input into it. As in regards to, well, he didn't have a director's credit or anything like that on it, but maybe he was doing some stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That was doing it, and it was all right. I mean, it's nothing to rush out and get. If it's on TV, you'd watch it. Pretty interesting premise. The special effects in it, they could have spent some more money or some more time doing it. But
that's what put me off, because I saw the trailer and I saw this little gribbly under the bedsheet, and I thought, God, that looks awful. It
does look bad. But I mean, those creatures are pretty creepy.
Yeah.
When you actually see them, and the torture that they inflict is pretty. They are menacing little buggers. And okay. It's one that's worth the watch. The lead characters of Katie Holmes and Guy Pearce are just totally miscast.
Right.
And I guess you might be just used to watching them in different things. You don't really. I didn't really believe them as a couple, or anything. But the little girl in it, she plays it really well. She's very annoying, and you can see why she kind of frustrates her father and stuff. But
yeah.
She does a good job for being a kid actor. She does a pretty good job, so it's worth a watch if it's on. I mean, don't pay any money to see it or anything, but if you've got it on Netflix or Love Film or whatever, I'd say give it a watch if you've got an hour and a half or so. It's not too long, so it doesn't really outstay its welcome.
Okay.
So it's a reasonable one.
Well, I shall do that, and I shall come back with my opinions, because I did avoid it on purpose, that one.
Yeah. Now again, it was just one of those ones that was on Netflix, and I was like, you know what, it's been on here for ages, so I'll just watch it and get it out of my queue, and that was it. But I mean, that's really unfortunately, that's been it for me.
I'm actually going to do a little plug here, because I've been listening a lot to a fairly new podcast for me, and it's done by my good Twitter buddy, Mr. Jim Moon. Does a show called Hypnagoria.
Okay.
I recommend any horror fan go and listen to his show. It's fantastic. He talks about all kinds of stuff, but it's very much based in the fantastical. So he reads old H.P. Lovecraft stories.
Right.
He's done a series on werewolves, vampires. He talked about the history of Judge Dredd when the Judge Dredd film came out. He's done a series on the Batman. But he's he loves his horror movies as well, and he's just done a series on the zombie series, sort of culminating in the Gates of Hell trilogy by Fulci. And it was really ironic that came along, because not so long ago I did a bit of a catch-up on my Fulci movies, and I rewatched House by the Cemetery and what's the other one? City of the Living Dead, which had got some of those iconic gore scenes that were just so far ahead of their time and got banned in so many countries. And these are the horror films I came up with. This is what got me more into the more extreme side of horror. So, and what he really intelligently researches everything and talks about everything with a holistic view. And
Right.
I think definitely have a listen. He has a very hypnotic voice as well. Every podcaster I know envies his voice.
So with that, do you want to jump into this wonderful section of the, according to IMDb, which we all know are the most unreliable rating systems in the world.
Yeah.
But very recently, they released the top 10 horror movies of all time.
Hold on, just getting my boxing gloves on.
Okay. And this is determined by not only user votes, but ratings as well.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm not quite sure how they worked that out. But the ratings, the votes range between 8.5 for the top and 7.5 at the bottom. So they're all fairly close in ratings, as star ratings anyway. But I can't actually see the votes, how many votes they got, or what kind of vote it was, or even its class as a vote. Do you vote to like it? Do you vote? I don't know.
I'm thinking the votes have a lot to do with how this list actually comes to be what it is.
Possibly. But I think it's a nice little fun, light topic to get into. Well, let's just go through it a piece at a time and we'll see just exactly what it covers.
Are you going to start at the top or at the bottom?
Now, usually I would start at the bottom and work your way up to the top, because that's the more interesting way to do it. But I think in this case, it's actually more interesting to go from the very top, number 1, and then actually go down to number 10.
Yeah, I would have said that
just,
as well.
Just to see what made the list.
Yeah.
Because it's very... Well, we'll see. Number 1 on the list is the 1980 classic, The Shining.
Little pigs, let me come in. Not by the hair on your chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
Can't argue with that too much, can you? Really?
You can't. It wouldn't be number 1 on my personal list, but I can see why people would put it up there. I know a lot of people recently have been saying to me it's one of their most... They think it's the best. It's the pinnacle of horror movies. Nothing can be any better than The Shining. And it's got a lot going for it. It's got the creepy setting. Jack Nicholson is just awesome in it.
Yeah.
It's got the little girl, the kids in it that are creepy and scary as hell, the 2 little twins and everything. It's got everything going for it. For me, personally, it's a little bit too long. It could have been a little bit tighter, but I haven't watched it in probably maybe 2 years ago was the last time I watched it, but I hadn't seen it in a long time since then. I've read the book. I'm not. You can't really. It's unfair to compare the book to the movie, so I'm not going to do that.
Right.
They each stand on their own, and it was very well done, and I think it definitely deserves to be in this list.
Definitely.
But as to whether you put it on number 1, I think that's just a personal preference of your own.
It depends how you rank your movies, because The Shining is a masterclass in horror. It's so well made. And I mean, I'm coming from, I probably haven't seen it in 12 years, 13 years or something. And there's a reason for that, and it's the reason it wouldn't be my number one. It scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Which means it's brilliant, because it does that. It makes it uncomfortable, and, you know, if you watch that on your own in a dark room, it really does the job. But the problem is it doesn't make me want to watch it again. Now, there are other films that have scared me in the past. Yeah, something like, I don't know, The Ring or something like that, and I will watch again, knowing it's going to... It does not scare me because I've seen it, but do you know what I mean? It make you feel a little bit uneasy.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that makes you want to go through that again. Whereas with The Shining, I actually have no desire to watch it again.
I think this is only one... I don't think I've seen this movie more than a handful of times. I mean, I think I might have only watched it all the way through, start to finish, twice maybe.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Got some scenes on it on TV. It's not one that I particularly would want to own in my collection or go back and check out, but
and I think you're right. It might be
to people.
It might be the pacing that being the reason for that, and the length of it, because you
it's
are
very
sort of,
slow. Yeah,
and it's a slow burner, and I suppose some would argue it needs to be for the tension to build the way it does. But yeah, it's just it's a tough one. But it would be in my top 5 from a you got to respect what they've done kind of a point of view, really.
And then it's funny that I mentioned that I think it's overly long and slow for The Shining when we move on to number 2, which is Alien, 1979, which I've obviously previously covered myself in Pod of Horrors. And it's a slow boiler, but for me this one works. I don't know if it's because of the setting or just the way that Ridley Scott directed. I don't know what it is, but the pacing of this one works for me. Whereas it could be argued that it is obviously a hell of a slow boiler. Yeah. But I think it should be up there too. I can't disagree with the placing of number 2 of it.
I think it's a little high myself. Okay. I would have it around the 5 mark.
Okay.
But that's simply because of my own opinions on horror, and I don't find it horrific enough. It's a good movie in the genre, but if I was going to be ranking horror movies, I would be I am ranking them on the horrific as well as
yeah.
It's got to be scary and horrific, and
yes.
I think Alien is just a bit scary. It's not in the least bit horrific, I don't think, but that's just my own personal take on it, I suppose.
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
But then we come down to number 3, 2004's Shaun of the Dead.
No.
Any zombies out there? Don't say that. What? That? What? That? The Z word. Don't say it. Why not? Because it's ridiculous. All right. Are there any out there, though?
Now, I enjoy this movie. I think it's funny. I like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I think they work great together. But this doesn't belong anywhere near the top 10.
No, it doesn't. There's too many others that come above it.
Yes. I wouldn't even class it as horror. I know you can get horror comedy, but this is not one of the movies that would jump to my head if someone asked me to list 100 horror movies that I'd seen.
No, exactly. That's the reason it doesn't deserve to be up there.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say most of the films it pays homage to deserve to be above it in this list.
Yes.
That's why it's paying homage to them, because they're that good.
Yeah.
So
IMDb for you, I guess.
It's a classification thing. It's a tag, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got a horror tag, and it's a massively popular film. Ergo, it hits that list.
Yes. But it doesn't belong anywhere near it.
No.
Especially when you look at number 4, which is 1960s Alfred Hitchcock's classic Psycho.
My mother, what is the phrase? She isn't quite herself today.
I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at placing genre-defining films in the pantheon, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Because
I watch them now and I think, meh. But of course, back when it came out, you know, it was groundbreaking. But like now, I look at it and think it's not that good.
It's been it's been a long time since I've watched the original. I can't remember the last time I watched it actually, but I know it still works for me.
Yeah.
It does. It is still freaky. It is still pretty creepy. I mean, I think it's more Anthony Perkins acting than anything, because he's just a kind of freaky kind of guy. Obviously, watching the shower scene and stuff, you know what it's all about now. You've seen it done, but seen it done. I think probably much more. I wouldn't say better, but it's more along what you expect now from the horror genre, where you do see the knife actually cutting the body rather than just random slashing and screaming and blood running down the drain and things like that. But I mean, it probably should be, if it's going to be of all time.
Yeah, it's got to be in there, hasn't it?
It's got to be in there.
Because it has to be. It has to be how the film impacted when it came out.
Yeah.
You can't judge it by today's standards, because today's standards are only what they are because of films like that breaking the mould. So.
Yeah. Justifiable one, that it should belong in the top 10 of all time.
Yeah.
Unlike number 5.
Did you guys see that? Did you guys just see that?
2008's Cloverfield. Now, I'm going to admit I like Cloverfield.
Oh, you did?
I really like it. I bought it on Blu-ray because I liked it and want to see special features and do all that stuff with it. I would recommend it to people. I think it loses a lot of its impact by watching it on the small screen compared to the big screen. But
I missed it at the cinema. I really wish I'd seen it at the cinema, because it would have a much higher standing with me then.
The only reason I can rewatch it is because it's on the small screen, because of the shaky cam. It was really, I mean, it probably was because we were quite close to the screen when we saw this, but it was really hard going on the eyes.
A lot of people walked out of that movie for that reason.
There was a lot of bits when running through tunnels and stuff, and it was getting queasy, and really had to close the eyes for a couple of seconds, and not out of fear.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what's happening, even if it's going to terrify me, but it was like, okay, I just need to kind of stop being dizzy, just calm myself down and look again. But it was on the small screen, that I know, maybe it's because I've seen so much of it now, it doesn't really affect me anymore. But I love this movie. I think it's a great little horror. Not when you say horror, it's a monster movie, which I guess can be horror stuff, but you don't really see anything. There's nothing in it that's horrific to me, anyway. It's it's like a thrill ride. I mean, it's got its chest buster type-esque.
Yes, I was going to say.
But you don't really see much of it.
No.
Which, I mean, if you'd seen that properly in the screen, it would have a bigger impact.
I didn't see it coming when I first watched it. I was like, oh, fuck!
Yes.
It was a massive oi moment.
It was very good the way that was done.
Yeah, it was brilliantly done.
So it does. And it does have its jumps and scares and everything like that, but I wouldn't put it in that category.
No, I wouldn't either. No, but I wouldn't call it a horror movie. I'd call it a monster movie.
It's a monster movie, which I think is different. I guess you could say, well, where do you draw the line between monster movie and horror monster movie?
Yeah, I suppose.
Well,
where would you put Troll Hunter?
I love that movie.
Really?
Oh, I love it. It's
I
awesome.
heard too much hype before I saw it to love
Really?
it, I think, yeah. If I'd seen it cold, I think I'd have adored it.
Yeah. I think that movie's just so well done.
It is, very well done.
I don't know what kind of budget it had on it or whatever, but the special effects in it are awesome.
Yeah.
The tension I just love everything about that movie. I mean, we watched it just the other day for the second or third time. I just think it's a fantastic movie, but it's not a horror movie.
No, it's not. It's a monster movie.
It's a monster movie.
And I would put Cloverfield
movie.
firmly with that.
Yeah. And even the next movie I love as well, but it kind of harks back to the Shaun of the Dead one. And at number 6 is 2009's Zombieland.
I'm not great at farewell, so that'll do, pig.
That's the worst goodbye I've ever heard. And you stole it from a movie.
It gets lumped in because it's about zombies.
Yeah.
But it's a comedy. It's just a straight comedy, that film. No, it's just picking up on the massive popularity of the zombie genre.
Yeah.
And does it with a lot of class. But it's totally... that and Shaun of the Dead don't deserve to be in this list, but they deserve to be high on the list that they apply to, if you know what I mean.
But then we come to number 7. Number 7 definitely belongs, I think definitely belongs on the list, and is probably positioned about right. And that is 2004's Saw.
Congratulations, you are still alive. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. But not you. Not anymore.
I agree, actually.
It's a definite top 10 horror movie of all time. Forget the ones that came after it. We definitely have to cover them later. Although I've already done that. I want to get your thoughts, and especially now the 7th one is out. Or has finished, the series is complete, and you can judge the series as a whole now. But this definitely belongs on the list. It's a movie I can watch time and time and time again. I know it's coming. There are stupid parts in it towards the end. What is really bad production values.
Yeah, there is.
But that doesn't. I don't care about that.
But it was low budget. People forget this. It was.
Yes.
You know, it only just got greenlit, didn't it? And I remember listening. I remember after I've watched it for the first time, I went straight back and watched it again with a commentary to sort of lessen the effect it had on me, I suppose. It was another one of those that isn't... Everybody thinks, Saw movies are gross, and because the video cover was always that ankle on the floor with the blood and the saw.
Yeah.
Nobody, so many people just, no, I'm not watching that. And they miss out on a brilliant... I mean, the thing I love about the Saw series as a whole is how many interweaving threads there are and how cleverly constructed it all is.
Yes.
We do need to revisit it because there's a lot of sniffiness about the later films,
yes,
which I think is unjustified. But the first one, it's not a gore fest by any stretch of the imagination. It leaves so much of it in your mind, and your mind fills in the blanks, and that's what leaves you afterwards feeling a little bit, ugh. So I watched it with a commentary, and they're talking about how they got it made and how they did certain things, and it sounds like they only just sort of snuck it through, and then it was, it had the appropriate effect when it was released, and look how many sequels they got off the back of it,
Yes, they obviously pushed it more along I think this one is more the psychological horror, rather than the gross out that the later ones came to. You actually see more of what the actual torture devices did, rather than you being left to the imagination. Or you can see some really quick flashes of what the person went through towards the end. But that's definitely more psychological, but I think definitely belongs on the list.
I agree.
Number 8 also belongs on the list. I think it's probably a little bit too low. We covered this in the very first episode, 1973's The Exorcist.
Stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucking worthless cocksucker! Be silent!
A movie I'm
Top
not going to
3.
go back and watch again. I don't know where I'd put it.
Top 3 for me, every time.
It should be higher than that, but I don't know if I'd put it in the top 3. Because again, it's a difficult one for me to judge where it would go. But I think certainly for the feeling that I had walking out of it, top 5. It's one I don't. Again, I'm all over the place on this pacing thing.
Right.
Where it works for me in some movies and it doesn't work in others. I remember trying to rewatch The Exorcist and it was being so slow. I guess I was just waiting to get to the, I don't know if you want to call it the good stuff.
Yeah.
But the scene where they're actually trying to do the exorcism, I mean, that's all you're really watching it for. I can do without the rest of the stuff.
Well, exposition, character development.
Yes, we don't need any of that.
Sod that stuff. Just give me green vomit and rotating heads, that's all I need.
Exactly, and let Jesus do whatever he has to do to me.
I think what sealed the deal for me was when it got its cinema re-release, and I saw it on the big screen, and then I realised how good a film it was, and how good it looks still, if you know what I mean. Because I saw it on it was still banned when I saw it, so it was a bad VHS copy on a small television. So to see it, I don't think being digitally restored or anything, or whether it was just an original print or what, but to see it on the big screen and to see that makeup and that, the acting as well, and it had exactly, well, it probably had more of an effect on me at the cinema, to be honest. I was just blown away by it, and it is just a masterclass in horror. It's just very few films sort of make you feel that uncomfortable. You did get that phenomena of people laughing, which I know pisses off horror fans quite a lot when you go and see something that's sort of, it's not a tongue-in-cheek, it's not supposed to be funny, and people find, they laugh at stuff. But what I found while I was watching that is people started off laughing as stuff was happening. But by the end, you could hear the laughing was to mask how uncomfortable they were. And I thought, that actually made me enjoy it even more. Mm-hmm. You know, Mr. Hardman at the back who's been taking the piss all the way through it, all of a sudden is going, and you can tell he's genuinely freaked out. Actually, I know we were talking about films we've seen. It's just reminded me of one I forgot to mention. I'll just mention quickly, because I don't think it deserves any more than a quick mention. There's a film came out this year called The Possessed. Uh-huh. Now, I really enjoyed this movie. The little girl finds a creepy box, opens a creepy box, lots of moths appear. She gets possessed. You know, it's pretty nuts and bolts from that point of view. But what I found really fascinating, and bear in mind I have quite a religious background, okay, I always found watching a couple of faithless Catholic priests going, the power of Christ compels you, to be just, that ain't going to work. Do you know what I mean? There's no conviction to what you're saying. If you actually have faith, then when you're trying to cast out this demon, then that's got to come across. And what I loved about The Possess is actually the legend was based in the Jewish religion. So the box had like a Jewish spell to contain this evil spirit kind of thing. So he goes to the rabbis to get a solution, and this guy comes to help him. And the idea being is to cast out this demon, you say its name, because it can't stand to hear its own name. And this guy, it's the Hasidical Jews where they do everything, it says. So they've got the curls of hair at the side, the covered head the whole time, the full garb. Yep. Really devout Jew. And he's screaming at this thing to sort of come out of this girl or this man or whatever. And you're like, he totally sold it to me. Because to live that lifestyle, to walk around day to day looking like that, with the persecution that Jewish people get and everything else, because he's living that, you believe he's devout to his faith. So you then believe that when he shouts at this demon, it might do as it's told. And it actually sent a little shiver down my spine, because I thought, I've bought into this now. Now, a lot of people have been like, oh, it's trite, it's been done before, you see too much. Because you do actually see a physical manifestation of this thing. Right, okay. Which isn't really a spoiler. But I really liked that, because it made a change to all these possession movies where people just talk funny and jump on each other, and then that's the end.
Is this one of these based on a true story ones? If it's the one I'm thinking of.
Do you know, I don't pay any attention to that comment anymore. Okay. If it's on the movie, it may have been. I've sort of forgotten.
I seem to remember the trailer when you're seeing a little box and things like that.
Yeah.
Because it's the guy that is in it that I keep getting mixed up with, Javier Bardem.
Yeah, he's the guy who was in Saw. Saw 3.
So yes, I keep getting, for some reason, I keep mixing those two up.
No, he does look a lot like him. He does. I can never remember his name, though.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I've just found it on IMDb. Yeah. So it is. I've found it under The Possession. Is it The Possession or The Possessed?
Oh, it might be The Possession, or The Possessed. It may have changed here, what they do with titles. But
yeah, so that's what we've got it on over here. So yeah, based on a true story. That's the trailer I saw. I thought, it's worth a watch. PG-13, so it's not going to be anything too...
No, it's one of those, it relies on the scares, it is just one of those creepy films, but I mean, I really, talking about The Exorcist and putting everything together, I thought, I genuinely enjoyed that movie, and I think that was the reason why, because it drew me in enough to make me believe in the exorcism itself, I suppose. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
For legal reasons, the editorial department of the Little Pot of Horrors felt it was necessary to cut this section of the podcast. Please see the outtakes for further details. Thank you.
We now return you to the music of Ramon Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
We shall move on then. Number 9. I love this movie. Again, I don't know if I'd put it in the top 10. I may. 2002's Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later.
They're dead. And you're going to be next.
Top 10? Don't know. I'm not sure it should be within the 10. It's close.
I have no idea what I would put this, if I put it in my personal top 10 or not.
Probably top 12 for me.
But I think it belongs with the horror genre.
Definitely.
I'm not going to call it zombies. I'm not going to go into that debate.
No.
As to what your zombie people is. All I know is they're people who just are infected with rage and want to kill you.
It's an apocalypse movie.
Yes. Which is horrific in itself.
Yeah.
It is incredibly well done.
Yeah.
And from living in London and stuff and actually recognising some of the places, it's like, you're like, how did you manage to do that?
Yeah.
I know a lot of it's CG, and there are people that say, oh, if you look in the background you can see the cars moving and everything like that, but I don't pay that much attention to it. I got other things to be doing than over-analysing the movie.
Exactly.
Says someone who's talking on a podcast. But yeah, this one works for me, and I don't know. I would debate as to whether I'd put it on my top 10 or not.
Top 15.
See,
it's a bloody good film. I'm not saying it's not. There are so many others that we're probably not bringing to mind right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if I said to you, right, one day we will do our top 10 lists, I'm going to need about 6 months to prepare that, I think.
Yeah, that one would take extensive research.
It really would.
I think it's a good one to do, though, actually, because you've seen a lot more varied. You got a bigger range than I do. I'll say I'm probably more mainstream, or what I've saw in festivals and stuff, which would make possibly some of the festival stuff would make my top 10 that might not have actually got a big release.
Yeah.
That some people might not know of, but I think that's a definite one we would need to look at doing. But would take extensive research to do it.
You get a lot of podcasts that do, oh, well, here's a list. What we're doing here. Here's a list off of IMDb.
Yeah, we're copping out. Everybody knows we're copping out.
Well, this is, to be honest, this list is more to prompt us to talk about what we've actually done the last few months, really, isn't it?
Yes.
In fact, you've just reminded me of one, talking about your Fright Fest stuff, because it's a film you recommended to me from Fright Fest, I'm sure, and that was The Horde.
Yes.
Which is a French zombie movie.
French zombie movie, yes.
Fucking loved that movie.
Awesome.
I adored that movie. If you like zombie movies and you haven't seen it, if you've got Netflix in the UK, it's on there. Go watch The Horde. It is absolutely fantastic.
It's just full on action.
Yeah. It's harsh, it's funny, it's sick, it's everything you're looking for in a horror movie, really. Mm-hmm. Except for boobies. But
you can't have everything. And you don't really want to see zombie boobies, do you?
Nah, not really.
Exactly. So, but yes, I'm glad.
I'm just going to title this week "Boobies."
B is for boobies. But that one's definitely, if you like the zombie stuff or whatever, or you like French horror, it's up there.
It's really good.
It is awesome.
So saying about the lists too, I think it's more interesting if you get a personal top 10, because it can only be based on what you've seen, and there's going to be massive. Anybody's list of any genre, there's going to be massive omissions because they're just films I haven't come across. They're always going to be totally different.
Oh God, yeah. So it is, and people can argue with you and go, "Oh, you're wrong." And you're like, "I'm not wrong. It's my personal opinion."
Exactly.
Yeah, my opinion's wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. We should try and do that one day then.
We should, but that will take a long time to put together.
It will.
And will constantly change. That's the good thing about it, is it will constantly evolve.
Yeah.
But here we go. Let's round out the list. Number 10, 2007. I mentioned the word Tim Burton. It doesn't belong anywhere near this list. But Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Who, sir? You, sir? No one's in the chair. Come on, come on. Sweeney's waiting. I want you, bleeders.
I haven't seen it. I personally have no real desire to see it. I'm not a huge Tim Burton / Johnny Depp fan.
Neither am I.
Tim Burton, Batman, yeah, awesome, love you, thank you very much. I don't need to see any more of your movies. But that's all I have to say about that, really.
Restart it's a musical.
Which is fine. You can get a musical in the horror films, I guess. But
did you realise the irony of what I just said there?
Yes.
I'm on a show called A Little Pod of Horrors, and I just belittled a horror film for being a musical.
Yes, you did.
I'll get me coat.
Yes. See ya. Not like the trapdoor.
Oh dear. Okay, I'll take that.
Catch you on the ass on the way out. But yeah. I wouldn't even put the Little Shop of Horrors in the top 10 list anyway. So.
No.
Because it
I mean,
doesn't
it
belong
may
on
be
the
good,
list.
but there's no way it's good enough to be in the top 10 horror films of all time.
No.
No.
Not to go into what my personal list would be, but where the hell's Halloween?
Yeah.
I mean, hello? In fact, I'm going to bloody look this up on IMDb.
Yeah, and where the hell is Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? I mean, come on.
1978, Halloween. Oh yeah, and by Halloween, I ain't talking about that Rob Zombie piece of shit, by the way, people.
I still haven't seen that. I have to see
Don't.
it. I want to know what he did to it.
I beg of you, don't.
Well, I saw the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was terrible.
I want to watch that, but my wife's scared of Freddy, so...
Well, take her to see the remake. She won't be scared anymore.
Well, you got Halloween has a 7.9 rating, which on ratings alone, it should be in there. So, I don't know what it is, if not enough people have voted for it or what. It's just stupid ass. See, that's the problem with IMDb.
So we can safely say, ladies and gentlemen, that the Little Pot of Horrors will not be relying on IMDb for much of its information.
No, the whole reason we wanted to do this list was because of the joke that it actually is. We don't want to be a list type show, but when I spotted this one, I thought we have to talk about it. And probably on that note, we should just draw this fun-filled episode where we have covered a huge range of different movies and draw it to an end.
Yep.
And so, because I really, really need a shower. I mean, congratulations to you for actually putting up with me this whole time. I stink.
Well, why do you think I chose the day I have a streaming cold to do this show?
See? You're always one step ahead of me.
I am. Well, do me a favour, though. Just lock it again, because I think you left that weird little leather-bound book down there with a funny face on it. Probably just leave that down there, I think.
Leave it down there, yeah. Quick, lock it now, quick.
Yeah, I'll do it. Done.
Thank you. Oh, God, I'm not going down there again. Please don't make me go down there again. Evil Dead 2 shit. Anyway, sorry. I had to say it there. And on that note, we shall draw this episode to an end. As usual, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to discuss next week, because that would just be boring. And then it actually ties us down to doing something. So we'll just keep it vague and we'll see what happens. But thank you all for spending the last, I don't know, hour or so, depending on what the edits are going to be like, with us. I hope you enjoyed it. Please send any feedback that you have to thelittlepodofhorrors@gmail.com, or go on to the Twitter account, which is @podofhorrors. And I don't even know what our Facebook account is, because I hate Facebook. So I'm fairly sure it's the Little Pot of Horrors somewhere on Facebook. But you can find the links to that by going to thelittlepodofhorrors.com.
And if you subscribe to either of those, you'll obviously get any audio boos that we put out. So
yes, and Boz has put some of those out on more recent movies. So please go along and check that out. And like I say, just drop us a tweet, drop us a line, give us an email. I would like to say that we had absolutely 0 comments on Martyrs. Come on, people. None. Seriously? Are you all too chicken to go watch that movie? Come on, it's subtitled, I know. But still, spend time and watch it. Give us a bit of feedback. Please.
We dare you.
Yes. Ha 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 ha. I really don't have the kind of voice to do a scary laugh. But anyway, thank you very much, and we shall see you next time.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you thought we'd disappeared forever. But no, the little pod of... Fucking edit this out. Man, I'm rusty. Gag reel.
Outtake.
Start again.
Boobies.
Don't give me the giggles. This is hard enough. Right. You got to cut this out. I just realised how many people are going to piss off. Boz is a Catholic-hating bastard. Sorry.
New tagline. Catholics beware. Nope.